Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Advertise Crush back with you once again. And it's been a couple days, actually almost a week, since Apple's Spring Forward event last week. And I've been really kind of waiting to kind of dig into this particular event because everybody has these kind of snap decisions after a event happens and really doesn't go kind of as in depth. That's what I kind of want to do here is really kind of go on a post-mortem of this event and really kind of give you a little bit more of a generalized in-depth view of what happened and where we're going to maybe go with products from here on out. I'm going to kind of really kind of cut certain things out, like the Apple Card and the purple iPhone 12. These are kind of cursory things, to be honest with you. Don't get me wrong, having the Apple Card family plan is actually not a bad idea. But to your average Mac user, unless you're trying to indoctrinate the rest of your family into being Mac users or iPod users, whatever, doesn't really be that important. And when you take a look at the purple iPhone 12, Prince will be proud. But let's be honest, not that much of a market impact. However, people are going to pay out for the iPhone in mid-cycle now, so that's kind of good. One other thing too, the brand new Apple TV 4K. I mean, yay for the new remote, but it really doesn't change that much the user experience. The button on the new Apple TV that I have isn't too bad. It's a little annoying at times, but it could be a lot worse, to be honest with you. So I don't really see those as big kind of market changers. Things I really want to focus on is the iMac and the iPad Pro. Those are really the two things I think kind of hold the most weight in events like these, because these are going to be like flagships. Some people don't call the iPad Pro a flagship, but I kind of disagree. And the reason why is that the iPad Pro is really trying to push people into having more of one of these versus one of these, you know what I mean? Going a little bit more portable overall, and especially now that they have the wireless capabilities built in, having a little bit more of your mobile operating system now kind of factored in. So let's get into the iMac and the iPad Pro. So the iMac here is really kind of classified into two major categories. You have the lower model, which is 8 gigs unified memory, 256 gig storage, 7-core GPU, and an 8-core CPU. And then you have the two higher models. First is 8 gigs unified memory and 256 with 8 cores each, and then 512 gigs of storage, 8 gigs unified memory, and 8 cores each. Also, the other big differences here on the lesser model, you do not have any USB 3 ports and no gigabit Ethernet. And the Magic Keyboard does not come with a Touch ID. The two higher models will both have two USB 3 ports, the gigabit Ethernet, which is built into the power cord, and the Touch ID Magic Keyboard. So the price difference here, the lesser model is $12.99, and then the two higher models are $14.99 and $16.99, respectively. One other thing that a lot of people also aren't really talking about, and I don't think it's talked about much, is the payment plan if you have an Apple Card. So you go with the lesser model, it's $108.25 for 12 months. Then you have for the 256 double 8 core, it's $124.91 for 12 months. And then you have the higher model, which is $141.58 for 12 months. This, I think, is actually really nice, and they should have really pushed that a little bit more in the presentation, in my opinion, because everyone sees these big numbers all the time, these really big numbers. We already have, for our cell phones, for instance, oh, well, it's a $999 iPhone, but you can just break that up into $36 payments over 24 or 30 months or whatever, depending on your provider. Now, if you have the Apple Card, you essentially get that kind of provider perk where you don't have to worry about dropping $1,700 straight off the cuff You apply for an Apple Card, you can get approved for up to that amount. And even if you don't get, the iMac, and you have to go with something a little bit lesser like the MacBook Air, because that starts at $999, you have that kind of versatility, and you're also building credit. So it's really a nice option. And you also, of course, have the Apple trade-in too, which is really nice. So I really kind of feel that it was a little bit of a mixed bag there, because you're getting certain things and you're not getting certain things. So, and actually, one thing I'm actually double checking here is, no, you got to put your serial number for Apple trade-in. But if I was to trade in my MacBook Pro here, it probably go to a certain amount towards a new one, so which is nice. So let's also go over and take a look at the iPad Pro through all the fantastic blah, 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 blah. Oh my goodness. So of course the new iPad Pro comes preloaded with the new M1 chip, 8-core CPU, 8-core GPU, and 16-core neural engine. So here's the thing here. The 12.9 Liquid Retina XDR, which is nice, don't get me wrong. And let's see, look at the pricing here. So you can start off with the 11-inch display, and that starts off at $799, or the 12.9-inch display, which is a higher model, from $1099. Now, the $1099 model gives you a Liquid Retina XDR display, which is kind of akin to what's in the iMac Pros, if I'm not mistaken. And having the 11 inches, it will be nice for you. It's just that, yeah. And of course, you'll have to start off 128 gig, 256, 512, or 1 terabyte. If you go with the 11-inch display, you have a choice between space gray and silver. And that all the way, because it starts out with $799 for the 128 gig, all the way up to $1899 for the 2 terabyte option. If you go with the 12.9-inch, 128 gig starts at $1099 all the way up to the 2 terabyte model, which is $21.99. So now here's also the difference between your iPad Pro and your iMac users. I would figure, at least, that if you have any type of a device, you'd want to go as high as possible. I mean, your highest tier iMac only goes up to, I think, what was it, $17.99? And then your iPad Pro, which is more mobile and also more, let's be honest, apt to destruction, goes up to $21.99 with the 2 terabyte option. And your iMac only goes up to 256 gigs. I hope that these new iMacs at some point will give you the option to go up to the 2 terabyte. Or even a 1 terabyte would be nice. I mean, having your home option would be nice and all. And let's be honest, you have a lot of people who use an iMac for everyday tasks, and they'll store files. And a lot of people, although the people like me also push having local storage to back up on, a lot of people don't. And even though you're going to have 2 terabytes on your iPad customers should have some sort of a virtual backup, like an iCloud or a Dropbox or something along those lines. And one thing I also kind of have between this as well is you're not really kind of differentiating between the iPad Pro and the MacBook Air. The MacBook Air, of course, was launched with the M1 chip, I believe it was last year. If you actually take a look at the MacBook Air here, your MacBook Air starts off at $999. That's 8 gigs unified memory, 8-core CPU, 7-core GPU, and 256 gigs of storage. I mean, when you honestly kind of take a look at that, you're almost kind of left in a lurch in a certain way. Because if you're a content creator, you can do fine with a MacBook Air. But if you take a look at your iPad Pros, that's going to be a little bit separate as well. Your iPad Pro creators are going to have a little bit more of a hands-on, because of course you have the touchscreen with the Apple Pencil. And I think there can be a little bit either a better differentiation between your MacBook Air user and your iPad Pro. If you actually take a look at the higher model for the MacBook Air, you get 512 gigs of storage, 8 core, and having that a little bit more expensive, it's $1249. I think you need to have a little bit of a better kind of back and forth on that, at least in my opinion. So I would like to see a little bit more of overall differentiation between the iPad Pro and the MacBook Air in the future, because I have a lot of people who say that if I'm already going to spend $1,000 for a MacBook, why don't I just go to an iPad? Why don't I just go to an iPad where the iPad Pro is going to give me a little bit more functionality and more storage overall versus a MacBook where I have the same inability to upgrade anything as far as the internals go, because they want to have storage. That's the big thing, is storage. So if you actually take a look at that, overall it's going to be a little bit more of a specific use case scenario, in my opinion. So I want to hear what you think down in the comments. Would you like iPad Pro over MacBook Air? How are your feelings on the new iMacs? Feel free, shoot those comments down at the bottom. Well, thank everybody out there for watching, and we'll see you next time. Peace out, everybody.